Welcome back, everyone, to the IELTS Secrets podcast. And hey, Marcus, today we're really zeroing in on a part of the test that, frankly, can trip up even the best candidates, right?
Absolutely, Emma. We're diving deep into speaking part 3, and man, this is where a lot of candidates, they really lose control, even if they absolutely aced parts 1 and 2, it's a whole different beast.
It really is. And here's the thing. Today, we're not actually going to be showing strong answers. No, we're doing something different. We're going to analyze, why candidates lose marks on these exact questions from Cambridge IELTS Book 19, and how examiners, how they interpret those mistakes. It's about getting into the examiner's head, I guess.
Precisely. Because speaking part 3, it's not about personal stories. That's a huge misconception, actually. It's testing your ability to discuss ideas, abstractly, right? You got to explain your opinions, compare different perspectives, and really think beyond just your own personal experience.
Oh, so this is where, the big separation happens between, say, a band 6 and a band 7.
Yeah, exactly. This is where examiners clearly separate those band 6 folks from the ones who are hitting 7 and above. It's a real differentiator, you know?
Okay, so let's get into some specific questions, right? From Cambridge IELTS Book 19. The first topic is young people in cooking. And the first question is, what kinds of things can children learn to cook? Now, Marcus, that sounds kind of simple, almost deceptively so, doesn't it?
It totally does, Emma. And that's the trap right there. A very common mistake here is giving super narrow or simplistic answers. Candidates will list just basic foods. Oh, they can learn to make toast or maybe some instant noodles. And then they just stop, which really limits their idea development.
Oh, I see. So it's not just about pizza and cookies, right? It's about showing you can think broader, yeah?
Exactly. And others, they actually misunderstand the question entirely. They talk about what children like to eat, not what they can reasonably learn to cook. And that shows weak task interpretation, and really cuts down on coherence.
Wow, okay. And then question 2, do you think it is important for children to learn to cook? This one, it requires an opinion, obviously.
Yeah, an opinion with justification, right? But many candidates, they just give a simple yes or no. That's it. And another big issue is over-emotional answers, where they only focus on personal childhood memories. Part 3 needs general reasoning, not storytelling. If you're still telling stories, you sound like you're in part 1. Big problem.
All right, moving on from the kids cooking, let's talk about being a chef, a professional chef. Question 4, how enjoyable do you think it would be to work as a professional chef? I can already see how people might just jump to conclusions here.
They totally do, Emma. Candidates often answer this as if it were, a personal dream or their own career plan. They'll say, oh, I'd absolutely love it because I love food. But the question is asking for a general evaluation, not personal ambition. Answers that rely only on personal feelings, they sound limited and just lack analytical depth. It's not what they're looking for.
So you can't just be oh, I totally love it because I love food, huh? You need to step back and analyze it from a broader perspective. Okay. And then question 5, what skills does a person need to be a great chef? This feels like it could be another list trap.
It absolutely is, Emma. A frequent mistake is listing skills without explanation. For example, candidates might name creativity, patience, and experience, but they fail to explain why those matter or how they contribute to being a great chef. This really weakens coherence, and it reduces the impression of advanced thinking. It's just not enough.
Yeah, I guess just saying creativity isn't enough. You need to unpack that a bit. And then the final one on this topic, how much influence do celebrity or TV chefs have on what ordinary people cook? Wow, this is one of the most abstract questions in this whole set.
Oh, it is. And many candidates, they either exaggerate wildly or they just give vague statements with no reasoning. Or they drift into unrelated topics like media criticism without linking it back to cooking behavior. When relevance is lost, scores, they just drop quickly.
So, Marcus, after all those common mistakes we just went through, what is it that the examiners are actually looking for? What's the secret sauce here? What should candidates really be focusing on?
That's a great question, Emma. In speaking part 3, examiners are really looking for a few key things, okay? The first point, clear opinions. Not just a yes or no, but a well-articulated stance. Second, logical explanation. You got to back up what you say.
Then, generalization, thinking broadly, not just personally. Comparison, especially when the question asks for it. And finally, controlled language, showing a good range and accuracy.
Okay, so it's really about showing your brain works on a higher level, not just sharing your weekend plans, yeah?
Exactly. It's about demonstrating your capacity for abstract thought. And conversely, candidates lose marks when they answer too personally, like we talked about, or they fail to explain their ideas. They just list points, or they lose focus on the question entirely. These are the big red flags for examiners.
Right. So it's not just about having good English, it's about structuring your thoughts in a very specific analytical way for this part of the test. That makes so much sense because I think a lot of people just don't expect that level of academic discussion.
They don't, Emma, and that's why they often, stumble.
And this is why, many candidates feel super confident after speaking part 2, but then they really struggle in part 3. The thing is, well, they're just not prepared for that abstract discussion, for that level of detailed analytical thought.
Yeah, because they're not ready for that abstract jump, right? It's a completely different mindset. So how do people actually get better at this, Marcus? How do they bridge that gap?
Great question. Inside our course, IELTS 19 Model Answers and Explanations, over on IELTSOakful.com, all the speaking part 3 questions from book 19 are analyzed so carefully. Students can actually see how to structure opinions, how to extend answers logically, and really how examiners evaluate these discussion responses. It's all about moving consistently toward that band 7 and above.
Wow. So it's not just about knowing the answers. It's about how you think and communicate those ideas clearly. That's a huge difference for people to grasp, I think.
It absolutely is. Speaking part 3, Emma, it's not about knowledge. It really isn't. It is about thinking clearly while speaking clearly. And understanding these common mistakes we've talked about today, that's truly the first step to mastering it. It's a foundational piece.
Yeah, super valuable. Thank you, Marcus, for breaking all that down for us. And thank you, everyone, for listening to the IELTS Secrets podcast. We'll catch you next time.